And Merc, I think, was kind of the guy at the helm of that, right? I don't think he was the top fragger, but he's the leader, he's the IGL, and he can make a lot of moves happen. But I see that we're jumping into map bans here. Coastline ban is accepted. This is the perma ban from TSM. That's what you anticipate seeing. I want to say, I think BDS have a lot of options in here because this map pool has a lot of maps that they're very strong on. And a lot of TSM's good maps are ones that TSM aren't hugely fans of. They ban out Cafe. I think that makes sense. There were a couple options that they could have gone for instead, but I don't hate that. For TSM on their pick, I mean, they've got some options as well, I suppose. I wouldn't mind them seeing Villa. I wouldn't mind seeing maybe like a Cafe. Bank could be a possibility as well. Oregon, I mean, there's no amazing map for them in this pool for TSM, right? Like there's no obvious choice. So I think it really comes down to what they're comfortable with.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can get it in here, but I'm really hoping that TSM can pick a map they've been practicing.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, Bank is fine. They're undefeated on Bank in the entire history because they've only played it 3 times since its release, haven't lost it yet. They've dropped 3 rounds total on this map in their history, but it's good for BDS as well. The second pick here for Oregon, I think, is a little bit more interesting because this is a map that BDS, you know, they haven't played it a lot. Since the start of Stage 3, they played it once. It was an overtime game against Heroic, so not a lot of confidence there. I'm assuming they've been practicing it a lot since Stage 3, and they've got some new strats. Decider
is also a little curious simply because of how much time they've still got left. I think, you know, I honestly love the Bank pick, mostly just because TSM have been super proficient on it since its return to the competitive pool. But Decider map is Villa. All right, this is curious. It's not necessarily a map that TSM have opted to play very much over the past, honestly, year. Remember back when they got beaten by Beast Coast back in Stage 1? Essentially, since that time, they've been like, nah, this isn't really something that we want to play around with that much. Did play it in the qualifiers, but this is also a map that for BDS has essentially been a permaban. I do not expect that they would allow it to go this far into the map ban phase if it wasn't for them having some sort of plan or something they want to bring specifically against TSM, but I think this is kind of a 60-40 swing right now for TSM in the ban phase. Yeah, I think Villa can be kind of close, right? TSM currently a 3-game win streak on Villa. They played it quite a bit in the qualifiers to get here and then over Furia as well. But BDS for them, Villa is the only map that they've won so far at SI.
All right, gentlemen, I'm going to put both of you in the hot seat right now. Who's winning? There is just so much going on here. Jacob, who you picking?
Well, I mean, the problem is, if I don't say BDS, I'm probably going to get in trouble. But if I don't say TSM as a resident NA fanboy, I'm also going to get in trouble. So I don't really have a way out of the scenario. I'm going to go TSM on principle, simply due to the fact that BDS have to reacclimate to having a player in the lineup that wasn't there previously. Rafal, obviously, despite being back, has not been able to scrim with the team. That's still kind of a pain in the butt for them. And TSM, so far, on a roll. I love the fact that like Furia gave them like a decent fight yesterday, but they looked like they were locked in. Now, that trinity that you were talking about, Bolo, Achieved, and Merc, kind of looked like it was on fire. The entire question about what happens with Chala and Geo is something we never had to touch on because they got relegated to the backline while we watched those 3 frag out of their minds against a Brazilian force. I do kind of think that if BDS didn't have this problem, they probably would have been on a roll. But in the minute, it kind of looks like TSM really is the team to shine through.
Okay,
right
so Jacob locking in TSM. All right.
Yes, sir.
Jesse, big brain. I miss calling you that, by the way. We're going to bring up a graphic here. I know you're all about the stats, so tell me what you are thinking. Who is winning this?
Okay, well, let's explain it in a few stats here. First one I want to point out with the stat sheet is going to be Bree. Now, he's got a ton of plants so far in this tournament. 6 of them came in their last game. That was the most plants anybody had yesterday. What they've done, well, what they were doing with BIOS playing is initially Bree was on more frag-heavy roles. They reverted that pretty quickly, and Bree moved back to what he's comfortable on, and he's been doing fantastic in that role. But it's not him I'm worried about. Ryan Shiro, he's had a rough tournament so far. Yesterday, he was 26 and 48. Not the type of stat line they want, especially for a player that's often known for fragging quite a bit on BDS. But the most worrying stat on this sheet is actually not on the bottom half of your screen at all. It's right up there on the top right. 34% attacking win rate. That is the second worst of the tournament so far. And BDS are the team that prior to this event were the best attacking team in the world with a 64% attacking win rate. So, because of that huge drop on the attacking win rate, I gotta go TSM. I know it's a new roster, I know they've got that new player, and they should be looking a lot better than the last 2 days, but that's not something that one player change I think is gonna fix overnight.
Okay.
I just find it funny on that stat sheet that we look at. I mean, Renshiro is one of 3 players over the entire course of Rainbow Six's competitive history who has over 3,000 kills. Name me the other 2 players that have that, by the way. And just looking at the stat sheet, somehow BIOS has a better stat line overall than Renshiro does. Not something I anticipated. It does speak to how well BIOS has tried to mesh in with this team and assist wherever possible, but still, it's not a recipe for continued success. And it didn't have a lot of longevity. BIOS didn't know he was going to be doing this. We didn't know Rafal was going to have to step out. Now he's back, so all of those dashes on his scoreline definitely are going to fill in as the day progresses. But I'm still, TSM on principle still seems like the safe play. It's not even necessarily like stick with what you know, still stick with what works. Like TSM obviously have a win under their belt. It's more you got to get Rafal back in. You got to hope BDS is running at 100%. And right now, because of how much time they haven't had to do that, I just don't know if they're there right now.
Oh my goodness, y'all. So many recent developments. I'm sweating. I'm sure they're sweating. So Jacob and Jesse, thank you so much. But Pengu and Intero, take it away. BDS versus TSM. Let's go.
Of Europe, it's Return of the King. Rafal is back in action. No more need for your coach to play. And for TSM, that's bad news, baby.
We have an absolutely massive game on our hands. Parker, you and I spoke about this could be a bit of a snooze fest with BIOS playing. No disrespect to him. He's played incredibly well statistically, but this is not the same BDS as we're used to seeing the Kings of Europe. But now, with Raphael back, we're hoping that means that BDS with 100% firepower.
God bless the analysts on the couches for trying to break this down, but highlighting stats when you have your coach playing is ultimately meaningless. Yes. I mean, I hate to say this, but the way that the team is going to react and play around BIOS on this roster is so starkly different from what you're gonna see with Rafal back on this squad. Vibes are going to be high.
Yes.
Motivation is going to be high. They're going to be looking to prove something.
Yeah.
So 34% win rate on attack. We're going to rip that one up. We're going to throw it away because none of these numbers matter at all. They're playing at full strength now. If BDS loses, if BDS wins, that is a legitimate result. I appreciate BIOS stepping in. I'm sure you do as well. For any team that's had a coach have to step in the last minute, you know how thankless a job that can be. You have to change up your whole strategy. You might have to have some role swaps. TSM knows what that's like when Pojo Man had to come onto the roster in Mexico, replacing Merc when Merc came down with COVID.
Yep.
You have to change up so many things. You have to have players IGLing a new member of this team with limited experience. There is no way you can take that data, extrapolate it, and then try to compare it to what they have now. So, with Rafal back on this team, BDS are fighting at full strength. This is going to be the BDS that we know. This is going to be the BDS that so many of you love. TSM have their hands full, but don't sleep on TSM. They come in very strong. They look like one of the best teams at this tournament, and the community seems to agree that this one is going to be close. Bank is our very first map. Let's get things underway, and we'll start with TSM on attack, BDS on defense.
There we are indeed. Finger taken off the board. That seems to become more and more common as we progress throughout this tournament. I think for BDS, this right here is day number 1 and match number 1 for them. I don't think the past matters, and I agree with you, Parker. I don't think what happened the last 2 days have any meaning on the future of BDS. I do think that their statistics and their gameplay and performance will change overnight because now you got all your players. Hibana, second pick on the board, followed up by the Valkyrie. Pretty standard so far, with of course the exception of Finger, but that is one of those new picks that the pick rate has increased so much, and of course when that happens the ban rate will kind of follow along as well because it's such a crucial operator for some teams. Final ban coming out. Mira. That's going to make the top floor bomb site and whatnot, as well as open area, a little bit weaker here in Bank, but basement should still be a stellar one if the teams want to go there. Other than that, we're gonna jump straight into the game. TSM versus BDS. And oh my, I would argue one of the biggest fan-heavy matchups that we have at this tournament. TSM, of course, barely made it to Invitationals, whereas BDS have been kings of the entire region of Europe, almost arguably single-handedly carrying them for quite some time. Too long, if you ask me. And we're gonna go to open area on the very first round. That is where BDS is choosing to start their new reckoning.
An interesting site to go to. Interesting meaning a variety of things depending on how casters want to use it. In this particular instance, open area is not usually one of the most commonly played parts of this map. A lot of teams will go upstairs to the CEO portion. We'll see downstairs as well. Open area does serve a purpose as a tertiary bomb site, but almost never the primary bomb site. BDS said yesterday in their matchup after they almost beat Dark Zero, by the way, and I had a great tweet ready, and I couldn't say it or send it because it didn't end up happening, but if DZ had a loss yesterday against BDS, I was going to say, Canadian beat a team with their coach playing challenge, impossible. So I want some credit for that because I wasn't able to tweet it yesterday because DZ ended up winning. But because BDS won a map, that gives them a bit of breathing room.
It does,
frankly. And Alem spoke about it afterwards. I believe it was on Twitter, saying that we were playing as if there was an opportunity for us to come back down the road, almost as if they knew that Rafal would be returning to this roster. Now, before you ask, no, we don't know why Rafal didn't play the last 2 days. And as far as I'm aware, that information has not been disclosed. I don't know if it ever will be or who will be the one disclosing it. But for now, there's no real reason to speculate. We don't know. You don't know. Let's leave it that way.
Yeah.
All we know is Rafal is back. Starting on open area is fascinating. And well, what a welcome it is. Welcome back to action. You're the first person to die. TSM charging on in. Shaiko refragging, but Chala has one of his own. Half of the server is dead in the first 45 seconds, and they're going to bulldoze this BDS team in the middle of the bomb site. TSM with the upper hand. 3v2, and they'll settle it down. They got the 3 picks they needed, leaving Renshiro and Shaiko to have to clutch out the round, but Shaiko has both the kills so far for his team.
One explosive start from TSM, basically saying, you know what, we've been waiting quite some time to get into this match, and we now want to catch up on lost time, getting 3 opening kills. And of course, the very first person to fall was Raphael, but Renshiro says, you know what, TSM, slow down real quick, because that's achieved off the board. The holy trio of TSM is achieved Bolo and Merc, and right now, it's only Bolo standing from that trio, but he has Gio on his support.
Well, we'll continue to narrow down the numbers. Renshiro with over 3,000 kills, as was talked about by none other than Jacob on the desk. Hard to imagine amassing that many number of kills. I don't even think you made it to 3,000.
I don't think I did.
They call you Mr. 3000, or they don't, in your case. Because TSM were able to get those early picks, BDS answer back, and you end up with a stalemate in a 2v2. You've still got some utility work, and you'll open up some of that top floor, and now head over to the staff area. Renshiro knows that. Gets swatted away by Bolo. As you said, 1/3 of that holy triumvirate, and leaves Shaiko in a clutch situation. But Shaiko is such a formidable foe. All eyes on him on his team. 1v2, patiently waiting. Inside of open, he can rotate, but there's 2 different areas for him to look at. He'll take some damage through the soft wall, gets swung on by Gio and Bolo. They'll look to coordinate at the same time. Rotate on in, a bit of a distraction. Nice shot onto Gio, and he's got Bolo next, popping up. No, Bolo wins the fight. It's a tense duel, but the goal from TSM was to overrun BDS and not allow them to settle in nor celebrate the return of Rafal. It seemingly works. And on their own map, TSM takes round number 1.
Yeah, you gotta wonder, does the first round matter a lot? Because of course, BDS rather, when you haven't had your 5th in the game, you really want to get that first round celebration, right? Be like, you know what, he's back, we're good, we're gonna start winning now. And TSM, with the early aggression, ended up picking back that round, even though the beginning of it didn't really go into their favor. And in that 1 versus 2 between Gio, Bolo, and then of course Shaiko in the middle, it was played quite well. TSM wanted to attack from 2 different fronts, and Shaiko managed to isolate Gio, but then of course, the standoff between Shaiko and Bolo is probably one of the most monumental 1 versus 1s you can have, and this time at least, Bolo came out on top, and Shaiko, not a player that has to prove himself at all whatsoever, but then again, you always want to show up for the boys when it matters the most. Nice try, but hey, it wasn't enough this time around.
Two of the most prolific players to ever touch the keys here in Rainbow Six in both Bolo and Shaiko. Not that this lobby is lacking superstar power, but if you know this game, you probably know Bolo and you certainly know Shaiko. So, BDS ultimately unsuccessful on that first round. They get rushed on by TSM, and despite the lull in action, the 1v1 breaks in favor of the North American team. BDS do not want to go back to open area. I think that's sensible. Yeah. Instead, they'll head down to the basement. They're bringing in Tachanka. This is not a throw pick, a unique pick. This is very viable, in fact. And with the setup the way they are, those Shumika launchers and the Molotovs that come from the Shumika launcher will be able to bounce out towards the default plant spots that lead from the doorway into server.
Yeah, and to be honest, we often see when people pick up the Tachanka that the Molotovs, they don't really hit the mark. But if there was a player I had to entrust this gadget with, Brit is certainly on that list. And the reason why teams bring the Tachanka combined with the smoke from Raphael is because you're going to have double plant deny. So we can assume here that BDS will play quite passively. They're all inside the basement right now, basically, and they're really playing it slow because it'll all eventually come down to that plant situation. The only roaming player is a Lemon open area, but he has the hatch to fall back, so this is just going to be burning some drones and some time. He's not going to be contesting TSM at all, and there you see. A minute, soft cap, drops instantly. And how many drones did they kill? Let's take a look. They killed a single drone from TSM, so minimal damage has been done, but 1 is better than 0. Of course, we got Merc on that Nurk. That's normally going to allow you to sneak around, and if anything, on this particular round, I would assume you're going to go into Garage. But other than that, of course, Nurk always has a great gun, and we're actually going to see Merc make that rotation right now. He says Garage is where it's at.
I don't know if that cam's been shot out or not, but he'll go through and try to sneak his way in. Meanwhile, you got 2 players from TSM up above, cutting their way through one of those reinforcements. And that hatch will soon go. Chala had gotten the hatch inside a main lobby as well, and now the one in elevator will soon follow. There it is. Renshiro governing the bottom floor through the garage. That's where Merc was attempting to go. He has him on drone, so he knows he's there. This is great intel. But what can you do? If Merc is going to go in by himself, he'll have to win a gunfight against that Alda. Is there any backup present for BDS in that position? No, there isn't. Instead of botched nade from Achieved, almost blows himself up. This one cooked appropriately and it goes on down. So once again, what utility do you miss out on? He spots the Jaeger and will tussle with a Lems who's trapped, but Achieved is committing a series of errors and finally capitalizes off of it. Shaiko is down for the count. Renshiro still inside a garage. Bride falls 2. TSM find 3 kills very early on, and Renshiro's focus is over to the bomb site, where the plant might be going down any second. Bolo shredded through the Alda Geo, doing what he can with that diffuser, and Merc is prone on the ground. He'll see the legs of Renshiro, but the Maestro knows it. Turns around. Rafal with the very first kill of SI for him, but returning to the bomb site, it's Achieved on the hatch, and TSM is up 2-0.
Yeah, if you're BDS in that round, you must be feeling a little bit upset because you held server and you held the garage the entire round. That was the last 2 areas of the map to fall, but then Merc, with the patience, sat outside the garage door on that drone, and the moment the Maestro went off the angle, he came in and flanked it through, and eventually, well, BDS, they fall. Good side collapse twice in a row now from TSM, taking the first 2 opening kills and the first 2 opening rounds. They're gonna keep things spicy as they're still showing the nuke from Merc, gonna get 6 picked off onto Sophia for a more standard lineup. And of course, Chala bringing on that North American operator, and I say that because Zero gets brought out so much more in the NAL compared to that of the EUL. TSM in particular, they played on a handful of maps. I think Bank really suits this operator. It's a very big map, there's a lot of big open rooms, and the Zero gadget really gets a lot of value. And you can put information in areas where the regular attack and drones normally cannot reach, kind of like a Valkyrie on attack, if you will, and the value is just monumental. We're going back to open area. So, open, basement, open. We're gonna try one more time, and I think this time BDS will keep in mind that TSM is playing it quite fast for that side take, and they will keep their eyes to stop it in its tracks.
No defense of that upstairs bomb site, by the way. A little bit odd.
Not upstairs at all. Of course, the mirror being banned does play into certain things. I would argue that the mirror is great for top floor and open area, but then again, we have seen open area twice, so maybe the mirror isn't that big of a deal as I think it is. But then again, I haven't played the bank rework myself in competitive play.
But then again, what do we really know?
Yeah, what do we really know?
There is one thing to keep in mind, and that's teams will deliberately hide certain bomb sites, certain strategies, certain role swaps, and certain maps for events like this. Pocket strats, they'll call them, but you'll also permaban a map, work it into scrims, and then eventually show it up at
so quick here.
One of the biggest events of the year. The one that I always like to reference is that FaZe Clan never played Clubhouse ever, and then they brought it out against Empire and won. Alems is down for the count. Merc walks in and slays immediately one of those proximity mines, proximity launchers, whatever you'd like to call it, from the lifeline gets fired into tellers to see if somebody's there, but because it is proximity, it does not go off. There's nobody home. TSM again with the advantage to start off the round. This is the third in a row. They are 100% on opening duels.
Yeah, and the proximity alarms are also known as beep boops because it's the sound they make once you step within proximity. They go beep boop, beep boop, and therefore you know as a defender, hey, there's someone in that area. Just like Melusi's gadget, the Banshees, they're called whoop whoops because that's the sound that they make. So everything in Rainbow Six Siege is of course based off the sound that they create, and that's how we know them. BDS down a man, but this time it's not Raphael, it is Alems on the Mossy. So the gadget, while it can still catch drones dead in their tracks, it cannot maneuver them around, so wherever they are, they will stay on that grounded area. And BDS, they don't have a whole lot of map control. Raphael is in the basement, but besides that, it's Renshiro, Shigo, and Brit all inside the kitchen bomb site. And with 1 minute and 10 seconds left, TSM really has done a phenomenal job working through the map quickly.
Shigo managed to stave off that initial push from TSM when TSM went for the bull rush strat. Instead, this time around, Shigo will be playing a lot more patiently. 2 minutes off of the clock, only one player has been felled. That's Alems. It died earlier to Merc, as we talked about. Gio will open up the walls leading from Archives towards the bomb site. Not exactly into the bomb site, but through small office. Renshiro firing through the wall now, as that's exactly where the breach has opened up, giving himself maybe a greater line of sight to survey whatever wreckage might be awaiting for him. But there's one tight angle that was being held by TSM before they fall off. MP5 in action to take down achieved. That's Shigo to do that. Numbers even yet again. Shigo loses a lot of HP in the process, and he retreats into the safety of Printer far back. Bolo drops. It's a single bullet to take out Shigo, and there you go. But he's over by the reinforcement, and he gets taken down from the bullet pen of Bolo. Still on the ground doing his best worm impression. Heading over towards Cafeteria. TSM will need to finish this plant, and Gio is just as close to getting it as you can get. Elbow spotted by Bolo, but the calls are being made as TSM looks and misses an opportunity as Rafal goes for cleanup. It's him in a 1v2 with diffuser planted yet again. TSM's objective play so far has been decently strong. They've either gotten the diffuser down or tried to get the diffuser down in every single round. Rafal's return to the bomb site will be greeted eagerly by the two players from TSM. He'll have to pick his target priority correctly. On top of that, he has to do it in the next 15 seconds before that diffuser runs out. He vaults over, but no! Rafal falls through the floor, and by the time he gets back up top into the diffuser, it will certainly be past the point of no return. He's actually got time. He'll hop on it. All Bolo needs to do is get a single shot in, and it's a mercy killing to give TSM a 3-0 lead.
That's gonna feel good if you're TSM, and honestly, TSM are obviously very well versed when it comes to bank. Their rotations on the map, their entries are super swift and super quick. Bolo was inside of CO within the first 20-30 seconds, and then Merc, from that lobby entry, got the opening kill onto Alems inside that top floor 90-ish elevator area. And then, before the exit could come through, Gio breached both the walls from small closet into sight and achieved on the sledge, rotated all the way around the map to the window, and then of course Shigo shut it down. Great kill for him. Bolo drops the hatch, trades it right back, and that opens up the plant for TSM. There wasn't really any way for BDS to stop it. There wasn't any throwables. There wasn't the smoke in line of sight. So that leaves you, what can BDS do better? And that's exactly what Bios, for the first time, will do this tournament. He'll be behind the boys and calling a tactical timeout, and he has the book in his hand and can say, guys, we know this map. We've spoken of it before. We've scrimmed it countless times because these professional teams play this game oh so much. We're talking 6, 7, 8 hours a day sometimes. That's only counting scrims, not counting ranked. So these strats, they go very deep. And BDS, if anything, just gotta get more active, gotta get active in those gunfights and start winning them more.
The one thing that we didn't mention at the onset of this match is that while vibes will be immaculate, my dudes, that BDS might not have been able to scrim or prep at all with Rafal over the last 48 hours, potentially even longer than that. We actually don't know when the decision was made for him to be unable to play. There's uncertainty here, obviously, or rather, not unable to play, but he couldn't play. Yeah. Again, we don't know the reasoning for that. Please, I beg of you, don't ask us because we can't give you the answer. We just simply don't know. That said, 2 days on a land build, potentially without Rafal scrimming with you, that's tough. You're going to need to settle in, sort out whatever issues you have going on, and there's going to be a bit of rust. Rafal as a player provides structure to the team, but he's not usually topping the scoreboard the way that you will see Alems, Shaiko, potentially even Renshi do that. I like the fact that BDS burned that timeout immediately, but again, every time this happens, I have to say that this is you pulling the ripcord now. You do not have an opportunity to do that later on. Even if you claw back, BDS wins a round or two here. We swap sides. TSM has a 4-2 lead. TSM wins 2 rounds. BDS have no way to slow that down. They just have to sort through their issues and go through the motions in live action and hope that TSM decide to call a timeout at some point where they can finally talk to their team. I'd question the site selection for BDS as they went to open area twice, were wholly unsuccessful at both attempts. Now they'll go upstairs to the CEO bomb site, which is a bit more commonplace on Bank.
Yeah, it is. Without the mirror, of course, gonna be a little bit more difficult, arguably, but Castle being brought out should help with those lines of sight that the attackers can otherwise gain. And again, I would say Bank at this level of play kind of favors attackers, especially when the players and these teams are so good at picking apart the bomb sites. But BDS, they don't really have the work cut out for them. They need to start finding openings because TSM has each and every single opening kill so far on those first 3 maps, and TSM applying pressure from both sides, 2 players on the lobby side of things and 2 players on the open area side of things. Gonna be keeping BDS on their toes, guessing where is the pain going to be coming from. And LM, stuck between both sides, gets found out by Merc. And once again, TSM gets the opening kill 4 times in a row.
There were 4 players by TSM hunting him down. Chala on drone, Achieved and Bolo trying to pinch into open area, and then Merc waiting by small office to do some significant damage. So TSM, they have sharpened their knives and are fully prepared for this matchup. This is the TSM that, despite qualifying at the 11th hour through the NA quals, was the same team that finished 4th last SI last year and was NA's only real hope at winning the event. We'll see what magic they can make up, and if they can continue their reign of terror. For BDS, that timeout has certainly settled the team down, but TSM are also taking far more time to drone out the sides of the map that aren't connected to the bomb site. They've got a minute left to pull off and execute as they go on rappel, and they have command of the front lobby of this map.
Yeah, TSM understands that the map control is really king here, and they're just walking on through like they own the place, and honestly, there's 2 sides to that. Sure, TSM's drone work is quite phenomenal so far, but also BDS, besides LM, they aren't really getting out and spreading thin, and sometimes I think spreading thin is good because you gotta stop TSM from gaining what they want, and so far, they've gotten that each and every single round. Now, they're gonna be closing in onto BDS, and you're all going to be isolated in each your own room. But Shaiko, he opens up the kill for his round onto Bolo.
He gets double flashed, but Shaiko still remains in this spot. Merc's 2nd kill, a 3rd kill. The LMG in hand for the Zofia is doing wonders for TSM. As Merc pivots, but Bride smokes him. Very first kill for the UMP in hand. Bride's got 3 more to find. TSM only 1 kill away from a 4-0, and Achieved will be the one to grab it. A commanding start to this half, and with that 4th round, TSM have ensured they take the first half with a majority of the rounds.
Yep, laughs across the faces of TSM, and of course, not the same from the side of BDS, but this is still early. It is a best of 3, so even if this match went 6-0 before the side swap, there are still many more rounds to go. If anything, consider this a warm-up map for BDS while they settle in, but even then, I wouldn't count them out. we currently have a tech pause, not a tactical, but a tech pause. Should be fixed in just a second. We're looking into the situation and the problem, and then we'll be swifted back into the server once again. Now, this kind of serves...
Hold on a second. Is that a red panda?
That is a red panda.
Is that a red panda?
I think so.
Top 3 animals.
What's the other... I mean, penguins surely must be in that top 3, so the red pandas are there. What's the other 2, Parker? Koalas?
No.
Okay, then tell me.
Tigers, red pandas, otters. There you go. Those
Otters?
Otters. Did you know that otters hold hands while sleeping so that they don't drift down the river?
That's cute. I like that. I know dolphins...
They grab rocks and they break open clams on their bellies. It's very cute.
That is cute. I didn't know otters were that cute.
Put me in a pool on a resort somewhere in the world on my back. Give me a rock and I can break open different types of objects and then eat them. Maybe give me a margarita. I'm happy as a clam. That's my perfect world right there, Nick. So an otter absolutely being the animal kingdom equivalent of me. That's my goal, really, is to eventually get on the level of otters. But no, I say penguins are nice. I know you're biased.
Slightly biased.
For me, it's tigers, red pandas, otters.
I'll respect it. And to be honest, you have quite the mane as well. So if anything...
Lions are number 4.
Okay.
See, I'm a dog guy, but I like the big cats.
All right, Parker. We're gonna continue to the game here. Tech pause has been figured out. We solved each and every single issue. I will just say here, production has been absolutely phenomenal at this event. You know what else has been phenomenal? Not my casting, but the observing that we've had. It makes our job so much easier. It makes it so much more enjoyable to watch at home and across the board. Without the right observers, I really don't think we'd have the right kind of gameplay either, because we can't see the action. So kudos to production, kudos to observers, casters. We can still, we gotta solve it, we gotta work on it. It's an everyday kind of thing. We got a long way to go, but Tycho, he says, so do you, TSM. Opening kill for the first time in favor of BDS, and now, hey, momentum has been shifted.
3 of the 4 rounds won by TSM thus far, and therefore 3 of the 4 rounds played to this point have been TSM rushing into the building and getting the opening pick. This is the first time that BDS will lead in terms of numbers, and boy oh boy, it comes at a good time. After that tech pause, it might not be a timeout, but you still at least get to settle yourselves down and talk to your teammates and determine exactly what you want to do moving forward. So, TSM, without one of their leaders, it's no secret that Achieved is a pivotal part of this squad. As is Rafal, now taken out by Bolo on main stairs. It was talked about before we went into this event that Merc has taken over primary IGLing duties on TSM. If this is your first time seeing TSM, that might come as a surprise to you. But both Merc and Achieved work in tandem to direct the team forward. And guess what? It's actually been working quite well. Alem's unsuccessful with the Electric Claw. The hatch inside of Elevator gets opened up. With Rafal down and the smoke removed, that means that the denial, which is still very much in play, will now rest on 3 shoulders instead of 4. Bride has access with the Shumika launcher. Renshiro has the Evil Eyes, and Alem's is a Nitro cell. Given the way that plants tend to go on this bomb site, you're going to need to be able to stop it as that rhythm happens with the default plant spot from server door into the bomb site.
Yeah, the big difference this time around is that TSM are actually attacking servers, where last time when BDS defended basement, they held servers successfully. TSM never got there, so a different approach, and now the smoke missing is going to be a massive factor, because now all you have is those Molotovs from Brid and a single C4 from Lem. Other than that, with a minute left, I don't know if it's enough, but if Brid can play this absolutely perfectly, it might just be enough for them.
I don't know if that fire actually reaches the main plant spot. Gio's going to tempt it out, and a little bit of damage done to him, so indeed it does. The first chance that we saw did not look like it connected. The second is good enough. From above, it's Merc, and just like that, TSM will double up. 2 players from BDS falter and fall. Bride left, as Alem's now getting softened up by bullets, and unfortunately, a team kill onto Bride. Unlucky. Alem's from behind the deployable shield. He's nestled inside of lockers, and will have to contest against the 3 players, but the moment he pops up, Chala watching over top of the diffuser being planted by Gio, and it's 5-0 for TSM.
Honestly, the bomb deny worked, even without the smoke, so you have to wonder, how could that have gone if all 5 players of BDS were alive? But also, I'm not entirely sure where those picks came from TSM. Sure, there was one nade kill that went out, probably from the hatch or something along those lines, or maybe on the main stairs, but BDS exposed themselves quite a lot when considering they actually had the bomb site under control. TSM was indeed trying to go for that default plant on the breach inside of servers, and Brid had the lineup on lockdown, really making great work of the gadget. And I said earlier, if there was a player I would entrust Zishanga's gadget with, Brid would be on that list. Now, Bolo gets to have fun with the 6-pick. Goes from Ayana off the grenades onto Jackal. He can now scan the feet and see where the enemies are. That's been their main strategy so far, is TSM really playing for those opening picks. They've gotten 4 of the last 5. And of course, LM, he's been suffering from that side. He's been roaming around the map alone. And this time, he'll have the Oryx available. He can move extremely fast and go from first floor to second floor, etc. But I do think that more so than just the speed, he needs more help from his teammates.
The one thing I will say about BDS is that when things go awry, they blow it up and they try something new. The Mozzie being brought out, the Oryx being brought out. This is a fundamentally different composition from BDS on a 3rd attempt at open area. I haven't really seen anything that's inspired tons of confidence on this bomb site, but I also haven't seen much that inspires tons of confidence from BDS up to this point in the entire match. Yes, they're hitting their shots here and there, but ultimately TSM has just been a step ahead through and through. I wonder if this changed. The ability to patrol the map much faster and control areas of information, with the Mozzie Pest denying critical drone spots and LM's being able to maneuver fast around it. This might allow BDS to hold map control longer, which sets up their anchors, who will be playing deep in the bomb site, Rafal and Bride, to simply survive longer and not be trampled underfoot by TSM.
Yeah, this time you have 3 players from BDS roaming together, whereas before it's just LM. So I'm really happy with this change. They're getting active on the map, and look at this. TSM now, mid into the round, they're barely inside the building, but the gunfight still goes in their favor, and LM falls again, and so does Renshi.
Well, not the start that you want. What did I say? Maybe Renshiro and Alem's roaming on these 2 operators, denying intel, and wrong. Wrong on both counts. So, sorry BDS. Sorry EU enjoyers. You're not allowed to have a blast. There is still potential. With Shaiko on the board, you'll hear us say this over and over again. Do not get tired of it, friends, because it comes from a place of truth. With Shaiko on the board, even if it's a 1v5, it is not a certainty that he is going to lose. Even if his stats at this event have not been particularly sharp, once again, they come from 2 matches being played with their coach. This will change the way that BDS has to play around it. After those 2 picks, though, TSM have slowed things down, trying to keep the tempo in their control. They've got tons of time. They've got 6 of their 10 drones at their disposal. They've got full utility. They've got a smoke remaining as well. And given the insistence that TSM has had on objective play, once they can open this up, the focus will be get the diffuser down, play off of that objective. If TSM is successful, it'll be a tough time for BDS to overcome it.
Unfortunately, Shaiko missed the 1 impact, I believe, so the wall might get opened up, but actually I think there's a jammer denying it, so that means no, but Merc says yes, Brid, go down on the ground. That makes this a 5 versus 2, and now BDS, they really have to go nuclear, because with 35 seconds left, TSM has everything working in their favor. They're still gonna take it slow, open up every possible castle barricade, and drone out the remaining players of BDS.
The one thing about Shaiko's position in the back of that staff room is that he was staring at the castle barricade. If he still had an impact available, he used both of them to try to take out the exothermic charges. He could hit that castle barricade and surprise. But no, instead it's going to be TSM to do it for him. All of a sudden, BDS are very much in this. 2 kills to their name. Rafal taking serious damage, Shaiko as well. But Rafal is as good as gone. Gio with diffuser in hand, he plants it. A big round from Merc, a big round from TSM, and a perfect first half. TSM on match point already.
We just saw a pistol fight between the Chief and Shaiko, where both players were both hitting and missing all their bullets. It was mostly going through the wall, so the damage done by the pistol is quite low. Ultimately, Chief ended up getting the kill, and this is the Sledge change, by the way. Sledge used to have that SMG-11 secondary. No, Chief did not mess up and pick the pistol. That was a nerf that happened quite some time ago at this point, where basically the SMG-11 was removed from the side of Sledge, and of course, right before that, we also saw Buck lose his grenade and then gain the secondary heartbeat gadget, and then he also has flashbangs. Speaking of Buck, he does not get to see play in this round as Lemsh did hover it, but 6 picks onto the Dokkaebi, whereas Chala goes from one info off poles to another in Echo. And this again, we spoke about Bank being a very open and big map where information plays a big factor. And seeing as TSM starts in the basement, but they have a castle, a vigil, a Capcan, and an Echo, they are very clearly going to be roaming across the map. I think this is a phenomenal response to how you're gonna play it. One, with the mirror being banned, but also two, seeing as how TSM were successfully attacking against a passive setup, I think it makes really good sense to get aggressive yourself and kind of show BDS how it can be done. BDS themselves, however, also bring in the 0, so information will be on their side once they gain the map control, and Lemsh on that Dokkaebi will help them get to that mid-round, hopefully with those phone calls coming through.
Let's do a tail of the tapes for the first half as it's now in the books. Yes, TSM emerge on match point 6-0. 5 of the 6 rounds, TSM got the opening pick. They got the diffuser planted 2 times by my count, but there was 2 more rounds where it seemed like the diffuser got planted, but it's hard to tell because everybody on BDS died right as it was about to get planted. BDS also burned their timeout. They played every single bomb site except for Teller's Archives. I wonder if that same flexibility will come in from TSM, but we might not even see it. The first bomb site for TSM is down in the basement. So it's going to be servers, it's going to be lockers, and Merc will play up top. He's doing so on Vigil. Completely silent, sight unseen, inside of the front room.
Yep.
A lot of people call this Trump. What do you call it, by the way?
Well, so we call it Trump, but that particular spot is Falco's spot. Back in year 1 with Jungtis, that's where Falco would always hide. But BDS, they don't seem to want the map control. They just want servers. They got 3 people inside of dirt and 2 guys on square.
Well, there are some of those SAM cams, the Argus cams, by 0, positioned on the top floor to potentially catch someone from TSM who's playing off-site. Merc isn't the only one roaming. Bolo is by his side, or rather, is at his side down below, so they can work together if they so choose. Achieved is not too far off of Bolo as well. That means that control of the bomb site is held by just 2 players on TSM. A tenuous hold on the situation. And if those 2 players get overrun, then the remaining players from TSM will be in a rough spot trying to get back to the bomb site. Merc is still up there, by the way. I don't think he's been discovered just yet, and the call to action will come out at some point, forcing TSM to retreat to the bomb site.
I would have loved if TSM kept the server hatch soft, because that would mean that Merc could impact it if he had one left and basically flank BDS inside of servers. Raphael single-handedly trying to hold the flank both with the cams and his gun, doing a bit of damage, or actually rather, Shaiko took a bit of damage, and this doesn't put BDS in the best of positions.
Nobody from TSM has really lost anything at the moment, as now BDS's focus comes to the top of square stairs. That's Shaiko to walk in, and he's immediately killed by a Capcan trap. That is a beautiful thing to see. Argus launcher deployed and a cam will go out. Bride is tempting fate trying to get this diffuser down. He's inches away and still has the smoke to toss out. 30 seconds remaining. This is not the spot you necessarily want to be in. But TSM's response cannot come with those toxic canisters. A second kill from Bolo as a nitro cell is thrown. But Bolo's down for the count. That's Bride taking matters into his own hands. Alems through the garage. He'll split his way in. Renshiro drops Chio. Damage onto Chala. He's as good as gone, and suddenly BDS has a numbers advantage. But where are you, Merc? Diffuser being planted by Bride. Merc cannot do anything. What a sloppy final 30 seconds. TSM seemingly had control, and then they lost it. BDS breaks the streak. They take their first round on attack. 5 more to go. If they want to win this, they'll have to do it in overtime.
Merc dropped the hatch, couldn't find Bride as he was inside the smoke. That happens. He got him eventually, or did some damage at least, then got taken down by Renshi on the cover. Then Achieved drops the hatch, practically landing on Bride's head, and gets shot in the back by his secondary pistol. Oh boy. An sloppy early round from BDS. They didn't gain a whole lot of control, but what they did do throughout all that chaos was burning the toxic babes from TSM's defense, and once they ran out, there was no other way for them to clear them out. Yokais were dead, toxic babes were used. The only C4 on the side of TSM was on Bolo, but he was up above roaming, and yes, the C4 did get a kill, but if the plank goes down, that really heavily favors the attackers. So Very, very close. Good job as well by LM, who's now on the board. Pushed up to Garage, got the kill onto Echo on that monitor position. Now TSM will instead say, oh, open area. We're done with basement. We're going to be rotating around the bomb sites because we have so much time to work with, and all we need is one round to go in our favor, and then we go to the next map of Oregon. So BDS will need a Hail Mary. They need 5 straight attacking rounds to take us into OT to then win 2 of the 3 next rounds to win the map.
5 seconds to insertion.
Only a telltale sign of the ACS-12 in the hands of Geometric, not running with the Alda, so instead you have that long-range slug shotgun with a sight that can be used to the advantage of the gun from great distances. This is the 4th time that we will see open area played. It has an exactly 0% success rate for the defenders. That is grim. BDS very quickly are already taking map control. Look at how close they are. Lem's leading the charge up top of blue stairs. He'll go on to drone. There's 2 players from TSM that he could have scouted out. He sees one of them in Bolo. Drone gone, and Bolo now maneuvering towards main lobby. Lem's in hot pursuit. He's got a castle barricade here, and they're just waiting for the call to break into the bomb site. He'll contest against Bolo, but Lems couldn't hit the broadside of a barn through many of these engagements, so I don't know if this is a smart move. You want to use that launcher to take some of the pressure off of the rest of your team, but there you go. Down goes Bolo, so what do I know? 2 kills to Lem's name. He's inside of Archives now, while BDS are spread out all over the map. Some by blue stairs, some at the back of the map, over by square stairs. Still, that castle barricade on the double door leading into staff area persists. TSM are using it to their advantage, and at some point it will eventually fall. There's plenty of explosives from BDS to take care of it.
I mean, we all know that once LM starts getting active on the scoreboard, that is a bad day to be a TSM fan. And now Merc as well, down on the ground with no one near to save him as of yet. He's 11-5 on that scoreboard. He's going to be bleeding out unless Chala can make his way towards him. Right now, LM is holding down the angle, so this could very well be a bait. We'll see if Chala takes it. He says right now, you know what, Merc, you're a little bit unsafe, buddy. I don't think it's my time right now, but if we get a kill, perhaps we could try and change that outcome.
You're going to need to do something off of it, lest he's just going to bleed out and die. It certainly seems like the case, as Merc is getting ever closer to chasing that light. Lem's waiting to bait him out, but Chala makes it to him finally, and Echo will make an awful lot of noise to get him upright. Both Bolo and Merc combined for 22 kills. Another from Lem's onto Chala. He's looking for kill number 3 now as he breaks the 2 mark. Geo taking some damage. Merc on low HP. BDS in great shape, and they've got plenty of time to work with. First kill for TSM is in Geo's hands. Achieved as above. He takes 1 down, and there's another on Repel. Swinging in. Achieved hears this, and he fires through the wall, but it's very wise of him to disengage. Stay alive for the time being. You've got kill holes in the walls. He'll play around that. Geo takes down Lems, and then is finished off by Bride, as Achieved still has the distraction above. Bride with diffuser in hand. 30 seconds to go. Achieved running, dashing, trying to get back to the bomb site. Renshiro above. Does he know where he is? Taken out by Merc. It's Bride now in a 1v2. He's the Clutch Master Supreme, and he gets 1, but Merc is choking on the shots. 1 HP, and he finally does it. As if there was any debate. Merc with ice in his veins. Takes some more bullets than I'm sure he wanted, Nick, but he still gets it. And in a stunning fashion, TSM topple BDS 7-1 on map 1.
Oh boy. So American Not Yelling Duty doing pretty good work. Not just making good calls, but also coming out at the very tippity top of the scoreboard. Had to get that 1v1 at the very end to also say, you know what? We're here to stay. We're gonna get that 7-1, close the map, and go to next. 13 from Merc, 11 to Bolo, and 6 unachieved. We spoke briefly on that TSM trio of those exact players, with Geo and Chala playing the support duty, which took great effect. And honestly, the early aggression from TSM on the attacking rounds and being able to single out Lem in particular really worked in their favor.
There's obviously some rust on side of BDS, and you said it before we even got into this matchup. We were talking beforehand with BIOS on this squad, and the way that TSM played yesterday, it might have been a situation where TSM made quick work of them, but then we said, no, Rafael is on the scene. It's going to be nowhere near as much of a blowout. Well, if map 1 is any indication, BDS have their hands full. TSM look like they are fired up and ready to win, but there's still at least one more map to go. And before we get to it, we have a break for you. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Well, Map 1 was an exhilarating show if you're a TSM fan.
If you're a BDS fan, you want more from Oregon coming up because a 7-1 is not how you want to go out, not just once, but twice. So, if anything, let's go OT. Let's go the entire way.
Well, was that actually BDS's worst performance on a map at this event, and they did it with their full roster? That is not ideal, certainly not. So we'll see what comfort level they can achieve now heading into Oregon. It's a very comfortable spot for BDS to be on. It's a map that they know quite well. It's also one that TSM plays, though. So this isn't exactly a situation where maybe Bank, BDS don't have the best track record on it. It's a strong map for TSM. Yeah, it could be one-sided. Oregon will likely be much closer either way, but who will be the victor? It's an excellent question. But let's focus a little bit on Bank first. What really stood out to you with the way that BDS played? Because I don't even think it was TSM being particularly strong. I think BDS just did not live up to their potential on that map.
And obviously TSM played quite aggressive, especially on attacks that got really early entries. I'm actually a bit curious what would have happened if this side swap started oppositely and we saw more rounds from Team BDS from the attacking side of things, and maybe it was just like a really difficult defense for them. But if anything, I think selling Alem's a little bit short, letting him roam solo with no support really cost him the first 3 or 4 rounds, and then towards the tail end of defense, they started pulling it around, but a little bit too late. And yeah, TSM, they got the opening kill every single round, but 2 of those 8 rounds, and you need more than that if you're BDS. You want to get opening kills maybe half the time, or at the very least, more than what they did.
I think it's funny that you say what had happened if they had started on the opposite sides, because BDS could have controlled that, by the way. It's TSM's map, which means that TSM doesn't get to pick which side they start on. BDS chose to go to defense first and then fumbled the bag. They had better success on attack, and they could have just very easily chosen that side. Bank is one of 2 maps that currently skew towards the defenders, for those that are interested in knowing the numbers. The other one is Clubhouse. I think there's a third map that's actually like 49-51, but that's a wash to me. I'm just not going to include that. Bank and Clubhouse really do stick out. But with a map like Oregon, tends to lean far more in favor of the defense, and with it being BDS's comfortable pick, I assume that we're going to see a better contest from them, whether they're on defense or on attack.
Certainly, and Oregon is a more common map, I would say, to pretty much every single team. It's definitely one of those maps where I think every team can basically go here with little to no practice, because most teams, they attack a similar way, they defend a similar way, and the outcome of the rounds really depend on the individual plays, but also how you play together. You know, are you going to roam? Well, you gotta do it with more than one person. And if you play passively on side, again, establishing crossfires, making sure that if somebody's in a vulnerable position, you can trade him out. Make that 1-for-1 trade, and you're golden. If you do not, that is when you will start slipping away and the rounds will go in the favor of your opponent. So, if anything, Oregon kind of tests your team coordination at a tight space, whereas Bank, much more opposite, huge map. You want to get out there, spread thin, and try and control the map. In Oregon, we don't see that as much.
No, absolutely not. Now, let's talk about the groups a little bit before we get into the matchup, because we are just moments away from starting our second map here. BDS obviously did not win either of their 2 earlier games that they played with their coach, BIOS, but they were able to take a third map against Dark Zero yesterday. Today, if they get 2-0'd by TSM, you have to think that their chances in this group are really, really slim.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that this group has actually turned out to be not as strong as we thought it would be. Dark Zero, despite the fact that they are not the bottom of the barrel team, they have shown some very obvious weaknesses, and it's elicited a lot of chatter as to how that team plays. BDS had their struggles through those 2 days, so when you look at this group, that could ultimately be BDS's saving grace. Not that they were a good team, but that their competition was worse. That has to be playing into their mind going into this matchup, and even more so now that it is do or die on Oregon.
Certainly. I think even for the group of C, even Furia, they haven't showed a crazy gameplay yet. Element on the other hand, they kind of surprised in day 1, and that's like that Apex supremacy. But enough about the groups. There is a particular match right now that matters more than anything else in this very moment. That is Oregon between TSM and Team BDS. You got the Flores off the board, followed by the Finger once again, Mira once again, and final ban coming through. Could it be information based? Could it be Valkyrie? Could it be Thatcher? Could it be the Kaid? I'm not sure what I'm talking about. It cannot be the Thatcher. It's a defender ban for all things. But Thatcher and or Valkyrie, it'll be the Valkyrie of course. That's just how the cookie crumbles. Little information game on the board, but we will have a Thatcher open, which means basement defense is going to be a little bit wonky because those hatches are going to get opened each and every single round. So, you gotta get active, you gotta get out there, you gotta make your way around the map and try and stall out the attackers if you're on the defense, because you cannot just sit on side and wait. That surely will lead to your demise.
Very first defense for TSM will go upstairs into dorms. For those of you who are not particularly well versed in the way that Oregon plays out, the 2 most commonly used bomb sites are on the basement laundry supply room, and then upstairs in kids' dorms and dorms main hall, the double dorms bomb site. The one hallmark that this bomb site had before the rework, and now also has since the rework, is that there are a lot of hard walls. And when I say hard walls, I mean not a lot of destructive capability. You can open up some of the ways into the site using your hard destruction, but other than that, there's a lot of just brick and mortar that you cannot deal any damage to. There's no bullet pen, there's no way to destroy it with either soft or hard destruction, so defenders can play in certain spots where unless you are beneath them or taking a direct engagement in front of them, they are in a powerful position to rebuff you. And the team that has control of the bomb site in the final 20 seconds has a disproportionate amount of influence over the rest of the round. I know that that seems intuitive, but there are certain bomb sites where you can be in a 4v4, have site control, and lose it just because of the way the bomb site plays out. On TSM side of things, there's nothing particularly weird about their lineup. As for BDS, this is about as standard as you're going to get. 3 soft breachers in the Yana, Sledge, and Zofia, 2 hard breachers in your Hibana and Maverick. I suspect that we're going to see Rafal go towards top tower, over on T2, put the Hibana inside of Closet, and open things up that way, but I'm open to being surprised.
I was gonna say, I think we're in for a surprise because BDS going for a downstairs small tower attack, trying to work their way into dining kitchen. Might want to go crazy on the verticality, at the very least you start consisting white stairs. But downstairs you will find Bolo, who's been in the fray against BDS a couple of times already. He said no weird picks are out, but then again, you do have Frost on the board now. No, Renshi's not gonna go above. They're actually gonna stay on here. I was thinking verticality from above here would be great onto Bolo, but we're gonna go for the gunfight. Shaiko, Renshi, Elemsh, they are leading the charge together. And so far, Bolo has now slipped away to that freezer stairs. He does not want to get any of the heat coming his way.
Oh, Bolo lurking on these freezer stairs. An aid goes off. He's being hunted down. 90 seconds burned from this round. The more time that BDS spend trying to fox wherever Bolo may be, the less time that they can spend on the execute. I don't know if that was a nade from below, by the way, but Chala's been dropped. Lycan on Twitter earlier talked about the amount of players who are getting killed from nades below due to the yellow ping system. He referred to them as being depth charged, and I thought that was very fitting. They'll be able to retrieve Chala, but not Bolo. Very first kill of this map goes to Alems, and that's a good start for BDS.
Yeah, you can be very happy with that. With a minute left, honestly, we're looking quite all right. Remember, Chala was injured earlier, which means 20 health on him. Now, BDS will set up for that White Stairs push we spoke about earlier, but the gunplay comes into this fact. And when Shiro does a bit of chip damage onto Merc, but that's not enough because Geo finds him as well. And now back to a 4 versus 4, but the health is looking a lot worse with TSM than that of BDS. But Achieved answers back, Shy goes off the board as well.
Achieved right now holding Armory. He's also got the ability to play towards Master side, so BDS's only entry, our big window, and White Stairs, a bit of a comical flop from Rafal as his body sails upwards. Alems will take his exact spot. He's got 20 seconds to move from this position. His shoulder seen for a second. Merc knows that he's there, and it'll be up to the Alems position to do some damage, but no, nothing for him. TSM continue their reign of terror, and their dominance stretches from Bank all the way over to Oregon. Actually, not that far of a distance. Fun fact, Bank located in LA, Oregon located in Oregon. So I don't know if you know this, but Oregon is the state directly north of California. So, I mean,
I didn't know where Bank was, actually. That's a new one to me.
You pick up your talents. You pick up your equipment. You go from LA up to Oregon. Yeah, I mean, it's quite a long
realistic,
drive. It's probably going to take you about 10 hours to get there from LA. Sure. Maybe a little bit longer than that, depending on where in Oregon it is. I digress. TSM continue to do well. I don't know if it was the roam that particularly got under BDS's skin, but they did spend an awful lot of time trying to find the players from TSM who were not on site.
I'm not going to lie, Parker. I thought for a brief moment there was a basement roam because of how spread out TSM were with Bolo inside of servers. And then halfway through I was like, you know what? I am so wrong. It is indeed upstairs because now we are down below. I do think the roam was great from TSM. I think Bolo played it quite smart. He got early aggression, killed a few drones, and then ran away from these stairs. And then we kind of saw what happened. BDS, they got the opening kill, Lemsh himself. And the early game was great from BDS with the mid round, and the late round they didn't really progress a whole lot. They only had the White Stairs, they only had the big window entry. They needed more. You said earlier that typically you want to go for that master bedroom balcony approach or big tower breach into attic, and those make a lot of sense because you're guaranteed map control, you're guaranteed ground to work with, and sometimes the simple way actually is just the best. So that's what we call defaults in Rainbow Six Siege. That's the strat that you most commonly see, both in the attack and the defense. And so far, not a default version from BDS, but this looks more common. They're going to be on the back side of things, trying to work the big tower. But TSM, they are trying to hold the ground, trying to deny entry. And Lemsh going tier 3, going to be rappelling in and making sure that nobody's creeping around up top. And the Chief says, you know what, you can have this ground, but I will try and take at least one drone with me.
In terms of drones, there have only been 3 killed from BDS. This is something that you can watch yourself in the top portion of the overlay. Door smashed open, and damage is done to Rafal, finished off by Bolo, who's still playing by meeting. He's got the hatches opened up, as well as the one above him in attic that he can watch, and that very small angle allows him to hit ahead if somebody peeks from the top of attic over by T2. Bolo has not been shaken off this position, playing by sandbag, staring towards the door leading into stage. If there's anybody who's mechanically gifted enough on TSM to hold this, it's definitely Bolo. And if BDS do not drone this out, there is a mute jammer not too far off. If they do not drone this out, Bolo can potentially net a second kill and continue to waste crucial time that BDS needs. We're at the halfway point of this round. A grenade goes off to deal some damage to Achieved as BDS have now taken attic, and they might be able to drop. Where is Bolo down below? That is the question. Still has mute jammers and a Malusi Banshee not too far off. He has vacated meeting and headed over to Split to sit and wait. The staircase down to laundry supply is not too far off, and in a moment's notice, he can rejoin his team on the bottom floor.
Yeah, and note that Merc's been helping out Bolo the entire time, was inside of Attic, holding his hatch vertically earlier, and now inside of Kitchen. Bolo's still sitting inside of Flag meeting, so at any given moment, he could swing and take his gunfight. BDS, they know their whereabouts somewhat, but here we go. They haven't joined out Bolo yet. Creeping down this hatch is a Lemj, but
Cover your ears!
it does not stun Bolo, so Bolo could still creep up. We don't know exactly what's going to be happening, but Bolo swings stupid. No! He's so fast. He reads it, drops down the hatch, gets traded back by Achieved. But now in the 4 versus 2.
Bomb located by attacker.
So much of this action happening by Pillar, by the way, and there's nothing they can really do about it. All of BDS falling by the wayside. What a drubbing TSM is putting on this team. They're up 2-0, and they're making it look mighty easy, Nick.
Yeah, just gonna say, BDS, they got the halfway point, right? They got the big tower, they got the attic, they got this tower stairs, the basement themselves, and they got meeting, but they never joined Flag, they never joined Kitchen, and Lemj, he had the stuns, he could have checked with the gadget, chose not to, and I would have thought it would have punished him, but he was so quick with the LMG, took down Bolo himself, but ultimately, it didn't matter. TSM is much more than just a single member, even though they are called Team Solo Mid. There are no lanes in this game. That name originates from League of Legends, where you have top lane, mid lane, bot lane. In this game, we just have 5 Q-Pures, essentially, put on different roles, such as Flex, Support, flank watch, entry, etc. So that won't really translate. We're now going to be heading to the meeting kitchen bomb site. There's 2 options here. There's the kitchen dining and there's kitchen meeting. I would argue that at Invite, at least from what I've seen, we've seen this bomb site more so than the dining one, and it's had mixed success. I think it's kind of hard to hold as a defender, but typically, of course, if you can win your gunfights or aggress correctly, you can always favor the numbers on your side, and so far, TSM, they've been doing pretty good work with those opening kills, so playing 4 versus 5 on this bomb site in particular will definitely help out your team.
Me, oh my, what a start from TSM. So with the 2 most popular bomb sites, the ones that we talked about back in round number 1, that forces TSM to go somewhere else. And where do they go? Well, they go to Kitchen and they go to Meeting. It's technically one big bomb site carved up in 2. The Kitchen bomb site remains for both of the first floor bomb sites, but the other bomb will either be in Meeting or over in Mess Hall / cafeteria. A lot of teams will favor an extension into Meeting, and whether you look at a LATAM team or an EU team, which might like the Mess Hall portion, it's more common for NA to take Meeting. It allows them to extend out, play upstairs. They will not cede control of the dorms component for quite a while, and as you can see riding along with Bolo, that is exactly where the focus for TSM lies. They want to play off of this as long as humanly possible. Multiple ADSs will protect the deployable shield that is in front of Bolo. It's not just a shield, though. It has the gas canister attached to it, so if it goes off, the damage being done will be staggering. Nitro Cell goes out, but it does not hit its target. He's just a little bit too far off. BDS a flash again, attempting to burn those ADSs, but the ADS will be juggled, and it doesn't hit in time. That is a crucial blow to TSM, but they've killed 90 seconds worth of the clock in the process.
It's a nice try, and those shields, those canisters, Vulcan shields. They're a bit special, but about the same. Shield is gone nonetheless, and now BDS, they have to find their way through so far because TSM, they're standing their ground. Nade injures Bolo, but I don't think BDS knows just yet, so they still have the fear that there's a man advantage here inside of TSM because they have 3 guns in their face. But now Shago makes his way through. Here's the drop. Doesn't swing just yet, but the timing isn't favor.
Wait!
Oh, somehow Dio gets the kill instead.
Excuse me! What on earth was that, Nick? How do you have that happen? The drone goes by and finally sees Mark. He swings out. 1 to the chest. Down Alems goes. Finally finished off by Rafal. Trying to keep these numbers even. But TSM's only casualty is Merc far off the site. Grenade goes out, does not connect on T'Challa. Drone's being shot on in, having to police what is above him. All that damage that had been done by BDS on the top floor, but the bomb site is still here on the first. Rafal working away at the wall. Who holds the diffuser? BDS does. And where is he in terms of the execute? Above. So he needs to get to the bomb site. 35 seconds for him to do that. The good news for BDS is that both Gio and Bolo are a single bullet away from death. And with the aim that BDS has, they can make it happen quite easily. One of only 2 players from TSM at full HP. That was achieved. He's as good as dead. A beautiful shot from BDS. But Gio re-aggressing, coming back to the bomb site through the freezer stairs. He'll claim another kill for his team. Brede with that diffuser in hand, as we noted. He has to drop. Chala will hear this, but he doesn't move a muscle. He doesn't know where he is. From the back, Brede takes him down, but then is immediately traded out. They just need to waste on time, and that's exactly what they'll do. Rafal cannot hit F fast enough, and let's pay some respects by hitting F of our own in the chat. It's 3-0 for TSM.
Unlucky for Rafal, honestly. He might have had a tiny chance there. Bolo was quite far away, running away, understanding time was slipping away for BDS, and again, extremely uncharacteristic for the likes of Shaiko. He ran into Attic as Gio was reviving Bolo, and somehow, someway, Gio was just better. Bolo was on the ground, but did get revived in the end. Brede, nice try, entry onto side, did get a final kill of his own, but it wasn't enough, and now we're gonna go back upstairs to Kid Storms. Gio, 6 in the castle. TSM loved playing the utility game, and BDS, honestly, last round, despite losing, did do quite a good job at clearing TSM's utility. It just came down to a few gunfights that didn't go in their favor.
Well, that's a perfect rotation by TSM. Mind you, this is BDS's map. TSM chose the side. I do believe that we are looking at a defender-sided Oregon with the operator bans and the way that it is being played out. So BDS will almost certainly make up ground on the second half. With TSM winning the first 3 rounds in a row, it means that it is impossible for the French squad to win the first half. At best, they can win the next 3, tie it up at 3 apiece, and go into the second half seemingly with the wind at their backs, given that they will be on the more advantageous side. That's my speculation, though, and I am happy to be proven wrong. I've been wrong before. I will be wrong again. I have been. I am not perfect. Far from it. So, that said, TSM have done bare minimum at the moment. Take 3 of these rounds, ensure that BDS on their map, their comfort pick, are not able to take a numbers advantage in terms of rounds. This is a great start here in round number 4. Nick, as Alems picks off Bolo very early on. I don't know if Bolo was simply crossing through the window or was spawn peeking. Either way, he's gone. And he'll be back in 2 minutes and 30 seconds when round number 5 begins.
Bolo might have tried to be a little bit cheeky there. I could at least see like a jump out happening, but we won't know for sure. Either way, Lemsh, good job on him opening up the round, getting that opening kill, but now need to convert that into an actual round victory. So he gotta really utilize the fact that there's 1 less gun on the side of TSM, and it's Bolo of all people who's off the board. He's looked really, really lethal on Bang. He's looked quite alright so far in Oregon. BDS going for a more common attack that's default, as we spoke about earlier, going onto Master Balcony and working their way through. But what's not quite normal is that TSM hasn't reinforced both walls inside of Generator. They've actually kept one soft and made it rotate, which means that BDS, they don't need to worry about breaching the wall necessarily because it's already open. Merc sitting tight inside of Attic, but now Shaiko will be moving up. Might see a gunfight happening. TSM playing multiple angles towards BDS. They're not going to have a lot of safe ground here. Even the satellite window is castle barricaded off, so you're really limited on where you can go if you're BDS.
That grenade does not work. That is a blunder, but still the guns from BDS are hitting their marks, and that's what truly counts. Sometimes brute force is a perfectly viable strategy. You don't have a grenade in your hand, but you do have access to a blowtorch, and BDS are beating the ever-living stuffing out of TSM on this round. Seemingly, TSM unwitting and just not being aware of where BDS is coming from. A flawless round is shaping up. Chala might be the only one. Alem's on in, and there you go. It is indeed a flawless round. The down on the top of White Stairs is down, but not out. And that last part, but not out, particularly critical. If a comeback is brewing, BDS needs to start sooner rather than later, and they'll take that round. Headset down, that means it's a tactical pause. A timeout has been called, and they will be allowed to speak with the team, or at least that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what's going to happen because, well, they're in the middle of the round, and the clock is still going.
I think we're just going to continue on.
I guess so. It's a confusing thing unless BIOS just keeps the headset down on his own. Usually you have to flip it up. That could just be confusion on our end.
Yeah, I think there's usually a button they have where they can kind of like mute, unmute, and the admin has to ensure that that button is of course turned the right way. And we do have admins here inside monitoring that no one is cheating or breaking the rules or talking to your team unbeknown to the admin. So don't fear about that. Even if the microphone was down from BIOS, I am sure that he is only able to speak when allowed to, if you will. Last round, LM did find the first trap. It happens, but that was a 5 versus 1, which led to a 5 versus 0. As you said, Parker, down but not out. Flawless round for BDS, opening kill as well. And they really checked every single mark there. But now, gotta try and do the same thing on a basement attack. Something that earlier did not go in their favor as TSM picked up that round as well as the opening kill previously. Nothing out of the ordinary from either side. Standard operator lineup. Basically, they're suitable to attack any kind of bomb site from the side of BDS. They got the grenades, they got the flashbangs, they got the soft breach, etc. They even got the verticality from Renshi on that sledge. Bolo, of course, roaming on the staircase. So is a Chief, and Geo up above. We see his silhouette right now. Every single member besides Chala is actually trying to find a drone, and there it is, with only 6 left from BDS. They're gonna have a little bit more limited information this time around.
2 more attempts for TSM to take this half. As stated again, BDS cannot outright win the first half, and that might actually be okay. If you think that defense is the favorite side and you hold TSM to just 3 rounds, that in and of itself could be a massive victory, even if you draw in terms of rounds 1.
Attackers have located a bomb.
Absolutely.
Setup looks pretty ordinary for TSM. They have lots of denial. Aruni gates, Jaeger ADSs, Wamai magnets, all will eat up some of these throwables, which the intended focus of that will be to keep these deployable shields alive, of which there are 2 present from the Goyo alone. Another added from the smoke equals 3 shields.
Yeah, look at the pixel from Bolo there, trying to get cheeky. I've never seen that angle before actually myself, and that might just work in their favor because they need some sort of thing going here. BDS did really good work of clearing out the map despite having almost no drones alive. With 1 minute and 30 seconds left, 4 drones is all you got, and of course, the Gemini clone from Shaiko. But outside of that, it all comes down to this. BDS are now looking to where to set up on the map. Right now, they have players in every single area. Freezer stairs, meeting hatch, big tower stairs, and Bride moving towards the lobby stairs with Rafale as well. So, TSM, they have to be guessing where does the danger come from.
This is the second time that we've seen BDS expertly cut through the defense and the ADS and shield placement of TSM. I'd even go so far as to say this is the 3rd round where I've seen BDS do a remarkably strong job of finding the weaknesses and the lack of areas where those ADSs or magnets will cover. Now, as you said, BDS are spread out all over the map. 45 seconds means that it's the perfect time for them to hop on in. They'll be greeted by 1 toxic canister. There's still 1 remaining from Chala, but he's going to have to hold on to it because there's still 40 seconds. This isn't ideal. He's keeping the last player at bay. The Zofia right now of Alem's stuck inside of blue. He'll wait this out. Elbow has not been forfeited just yet, still being held on to by this position. Geo hears the body coming down the stairs, and it's an easy pick for him. A reload with only 16 bullets, and he'll look to swing, capitalizing, played out beautifully, leaving Rafale to try and prevent a flawless round. He'll do that. But 15 seconds and 4 kills to find seems like a hopeless endeavor. Taking into the bomb site, another for him. 2 kills is all he'll get. And the first half will at least go in favor of TSM as they pick up their 4th round.
Almost a flawless back-to-back, however, from different teams, because last round was a flawless BDS victory. Their first and only round they've gotten so far on Oregon. Remember, the previous scoreline on Bank was a 7-1, so overall BDS has gotten 2 rounds. That is not a ton so far, and that also means a logical tactical pause from BDS. That's the second one they've used so far. TSM has used none because they simply haven't needed to. They've been so far in the lead, and they are playing with so much confidence inside both of these maps. And BDS, they really need to start swinging out a Hail Mary and bring it back. Of course, this is Oregon attack. 4-1 is the current scoreline. If BDS can end up with a 4-2 and go into defense, they aren't looking too bad. But you want to make sure you have as much room for mistakes as possible, because if you get, let's say, a 5-1 side split, you only have room for a single mistake on defense, and that can really cost you.
I will say welcome to all of the Stream A refugees. You've come over here to us, and we want to give you as warm a welcome as possible. That matchup between Furia and Elevate is over. I'm not going to spoil the results for any of you who might be waiting to rewatch that matchup later on. So while you join us, and you can hear the dulcet tones of our voices in this beautiful, chill, lo-fi music serenading your ears, both TSM and BDS will have just a couple more seconds to iron out the kinks. and begin the final round of the first half. This is a position that BDS, by taking this time out, can not just prep and strat for round number 6, but can also look at the side swap, because Oregon, having that distinction of being very favorable to the defenders, means that when BDS go on defense, they will have the wind at their backs. And they need to ensure that they do not give TSM an opportunity to take a round or two to start off that half.
Yes.
Because right now with the scoreline, that might be the game, or it might be match point.
Absolutely. And you gotta wonder, BDS, what are you cooking up? What are we going to see? They're right now, TSM right now is hovering that meeting hall kitchen bomb site. So we've seen this play out before, but remember, BDS, they've only gotten a single dub so far. That was on the dorms attack. So they're not familiar with how to break this round successfully, or this bomb site. Rather, it seems like a rather long technical time.
I was going to say, there's got to be something else going
Maybe
on.
TSM extended it and answered back and said, you know what, make it 2? I'm not sure.
Let's both call our timeouts at this point. Or there could be a technical issue at play. Timeouts are what? They're 30 seconds, Nick, I believe?
I think so. 30-ish?
30-ish seconds. Bios has finally turned his headset back up, but we are still waiting to go into the game, so I'm assuming it must be a technical issue. We'll update you as we get more information. The one thing that I will say is that BDS came into this match flying high. They were excited, they looked motivated. You could tell from the expressions on their face that this was their best opportunity to prove themselves on an international stage. This group, like I said, has proven to be actually quite even. So it is not the end of the world for BDS if they do not prevail, but they want to get the victory, and at minimum, they want to push to a third map, denying TSM the full points and getting a single point for themselves. At the present moment, after the absolute hurt that TSM put on BDS back on bank, and now with the scoreline being what it is, it certainly doesn't look like BDS have settled into Rafal being back on this roster. It's frankly a bit disappointing, because many players are very high on BDS, many of the fans are very high on BDS, and time again, BDS proved to be the kings of Europe, but they can just seemingly not put it together when it comes to LAN. I don't know what it is with the team. Obviously, these are very different circumstances from before, but still falling below their expectations.
Yeah, BDS is often spoken of as the absolute best team to ever touch Rainbow Six Siege, who's never won an international event of any kind. And that to me is absolutely wild. Remember, they are up against a TSM that's quite on fire. They had their game yesterday against Furia. It was, spoiler alert, a 2-0 victory for TSM, 7-5 on Villa, 8-6 on Clubhouse. So just scraping through, but it did look like a, I would say, decent TSM and a decent Furia playing, but today against BDS, I would say this is a great TSM playing and about a average BDS form, I would say. And of course, this is what might happen when you're playing with your coach for some rounds or some games even, and then you got Rafal coming in. You know, after 2 play days, it is hard to adjust, but I think we've all expected a little bit more, but we still got rounds to go. Don't count out BDS just yet. They can be 1 round away from just flipping that switch.
All right, well, calm before the storm, dare you say it? A knockout blow could be delivered by TSM on this round, as a 5-1 split is very rare to see. Over the course of the last 3 days, a number of teams have put a 5-1 scoreline into place, and their opponents have not been able to match it. And all it takes is one slip-up. A 4-2 half for your opponents seems normal, but against a 5-2, that means that 7 rounds go in favor of the one team who then end up winning.
Yep. Chala is gonna take a lot of fire right now. He got that softball into tier 1 of Big Tower, but he's looking to get active. Shaco says, no. That's the first kill for Shaco. He's not on the board. Remember, that switch can flip at any moment, and right now we have all members of BDS activated on the scoreboard. Renshi looking to maybe destroy this softball, allowing the injury for BDS, but first, Shaco is going to try and take more control, but achieved on the flank. This could be dire for Team BDS.
And that's the real Shaco in the middle of the site, by the way, not the Gemini at the backstage by Tower. That's the real Shaco. So he's got the gun in hand. He can fight back. And even though he only has a single kill to his name, you know that Shaco is always a looming threat. We'll see what the flank can happen. Achieved as their attention, and BDS have pivoted knowing that this is the case. Gives Geo an opportunity to creep up. but he doesn't see any legs. Just like that, it's spotted, and he can't do enough damage, and he misses out. Geo, you have to be better than that. Breeday with one onto achieved, but he's downed himself, and he'll need to be picked back up. Bolo low HP, that means Merc will be the savior, and he looks the wrong way, shooting into the side of the table, but no damage being done. It's a tough gunfight for him to be in. Breeday retrieved, meaning that BDS is back at full HP and full strength, except for Breeday being a little bit low. Shot out is Merc, that leaves Bolo, and he gets taken out by a Lems because they retrieved him and he never finished himself off. This is a flawless round yet again. Both times that we've seen BDS prevail on attack, they were done so flawlessly. A side swap and a definite confidence booster for this French team as they look to make up for lost ground on the second half.
That's gonna feel great. You get a tactical pause, you get to talk things through, get opening kill, flawless round. Breeday really saved it. I thought for a moment when TSM were creeping up that Breeday is gonna die for nothing. He gets not only just one, he gets two. He also gets achieved on the flank, basically saving the round from going the wrong side, and a Limsh as well. Absolutely activated now. Shaiko got the first kill of Oregon. The flip has officially been, or the switch has rather officially been flipped, and now we're gonna see a side swap as BDS makes their way to the defensive side. 4-2 side switch, that is exactly what BDS wanted, and with that timeout they can be quite happy with that as well. Bios, I'm sure, also took some time to talk about the defensive side because that's essentially where BDS has to end out the map, unless of course they want to go to OT, then they'll have to eventually go back to attack. She gotta win 2 of the following 3 rounds. But we don't have to go the entire distance. We can win in regulation as TSM is only on 4 rounds, not on 6.
I mean, this is exactly where you want to be if you're BDS. Yes, TSM took the first half, Nick, by a score of 4-2, but 4-2s tend to be the most common splits that we see, especially when teams are proficient on a map and they have the side working in their favor. When I say that last part, the side working in their favor, what I mean is that Oregon does like the defense, and the defenders do like Oregon. That's the way it works. And upstairs dorms defense from BDS using a lot of the same operators that were trotted out by TSM, but one of the key differences is that there's an alibi in play. Should bode well for BDS. What doesn't bode well for them is that it sounded like a Gone 6 took out that Goyo shield, and with it went 70% of Renshiro's HP. All of this in the first 30 seconds. If that's the case, and all it took was a single Gone 6, it's a pretty good use of utility.
Yeah, it is. There's no Jaeger being used from BDS, and I just assumed that there was no Magnet being used from Shaiko either. Of course, the Magnets, they regenerate throughout the round, so you don't have that many in the beginning. Normally you would see the Wamai played with the Jaeger, but in this simple instance, it's just the Wamai from Shaiko. Of course, leaving those shields a bit vulnerable, and Renshiro kind of paid the price.
He absolutely did, and there's a deep flank going through the bottom of this map. That's Rafal to do that. Merc was aware of this, or at least had some sort of premonition that there was an off-site player. Maybe he got droned out, I'm not entirely certain. A drone seems to scoop by Lems, who's not visible for the moment. He's on Freezer Stairs. That's 2 players from BDS now who are down below. And when I say down below, I mean the basement. They're very disconnected. Off-site, but a nice toss from the nade from Bolo takes out a Lems. That's a pretty decent start to this first half.
That is an absolute throw and a half. I mean, that nade basically went into the face of a Lems. There wasn't anything you could do. He couldn't run away. It was perfectly cooked as well. Now, that means mana advantage once again for TSM. Remember, it's a Kid Storm defense, so that means that TSM has to get upstairs if they want to contest the bomb side. Downstairs is not all they need.
Achieved is in such a powerful position. If you can pick off or isolate the last roamer of BDS, that means that the remaining 3 players are all on the site. And because of that, you keep Sledge inside a mess. He can watch the hatch up into dorms. He's got a grenade or 2 as well at his disposal. Achieved in this case having both of them. He can just sit there because the numbers advantage favors TSM that you don't need to dedicate another player to flank watch at an even 5-5. The return, by the way, that we saw from Rafal was coming by the back of the tower, but Merc doesn't care about that anymore. There's a job to be done, and with 40 seconds left, that's TSM to do it. Breeday's still above. waiting by the rotation hole very patiently. Could there be a swing in? Will there be some pressure from Matic? He doesn't really know, but he loses some of the coverage in the soft wall next to him. A bladed magnet tossed by Shaiko. I don't know if it was intended to go into the actual room, but it gets caught on the door frame. Merc taking some damage in the process. Shaiko deciding to aggress on white stairs. Nobody there. Firing away. His position given. Playing off of the big window. Where are they and where can they come from? Rafal the first kill from BDS. TSM taking their time, but like that, they've figured things out. 2 kills on their own, but with 1 second left, Gio needs to get the diffuser down. There it goes. Rafal the only one to stop it in its tracks. 1 second left. He'll creep up to the bomb site. He has some pings, shooting through the wall. Down goes the Zof of Merc. But with Rafal playing back-to-back on that deployable shield and 35 seconds to go, there are 3 kills from TSM to be had on Rafal's side. Walking through Kid's dorm, swinging onto Bolo, but Bolo stalwart at the top of white stairs. The very first round of TSM's attack goes to them, and BDS unable to have a winning effort on their first defense.
That didn't even look like that was going to be a TSM round victory. Gio quite literally started planting on this 0-second mark. Achieved was still down below. Right before the plant started, he got a nade kill vertically, and oh my, I thought that was BDS gonna run around with the round based off time alone. BDS themselves, they didn't really aggress into TSM. I thought they as well thought that they didn't have to do much that round because time was just on their favor, but Gio doing great support duty right now, utilizing each and every single second possible and saying, you know what, all we need is to plant at the very last second and just not die while planting and we'll still win the round. Beautifully calculated, if you'll call it that.
That nade from Bolo as well started things off, and then he held the same spot by the white stairs to get that very final kill. Well done by TSM, and in particular, Gio to me is the savior of that round.
Certainly.
Because as you said, on the 1 second mark, he started to plant the diffuser, and that was the perfect time for it to come. Unlike other games, when you need to have the diffuser planted, or the bomb planted, or the case planted, or whatever they use, in Rainbow Six, you can start planting when there's 1 second left. Even though it takes 7 seconds to plant the diffuser, you can extend the round by 6-7 seconds to get that objective planted.
Overtime, if you will.
Exactly. A little bit of overtime, extra time, if you want to call it that, for the Europeans in the chat. And Gio, I don't know if that was bad coordination. I don't know if TSM had good wherewithal as to the location of the defenders, but the hesitation almost costed TSM the round, despite the fact that they had eliminated 3 players on the side of BDS. So kudos to Gio or whoever on the team picked up on it, because that level of clock management, while seemingly poor, still ultimately worked out in the end.
Yeah, I mean, we have a great French team in BDS, and we used to have a great French team in Vitality back in the day, known as the last 15-second team, where they would basically start planning at the very last second each and every round, and they made the argument that the later you plant in the round, the more time efficient you are, because you're taking each and every second possible to ensure that you get to that late stage and you get to plant, and basically making sure that everything is 110% covered the way you want it to be. Raphael looking to get active. He has refrag ability. He has a friend behind him in Lems. So if anybody from TSM strikes down this staircase, there'll be 2 players awaiting them.
Gio holds onto that diffuser right now inside of Classroom, using his X-Kairos to open up the hatches. That's the front hatch to go first, and that's also the security hatch opened up. Such a distinct sound of the X-Kairos launcher. All 3 main hatches that you want to sit on as an attacker have all been opened up now, including the one inside of lobby. So, or inside of meeting and inside of lobby. So good control for TSM. They're doing all right. BDS doesn't really need to extend too much here, but Alems decides to swing. He baits out the drone. Bolo tries to capitalize off of it, but a shotgun is a superior weapon at that range, and Alems sacrifices 30 HP for a kill onto one of the top performers for TSM.
He even had an ADS, so even if TSM throws a flashbang or grenade, this time around it won't work. But the Chief, he takes down Renshi, doesn't need to do that, does that with a headshot instead.
Smoke is still upright though, so there's long-term denial with 50 seconds left. Those 2 toxic canisters from Breed A can blanket any of the entry points. Whether you want to stitch them together or use them to cover 2 separate ways into the bomb site is up to you and the rest of the team. TSM will patrol the hatches now. Execute coming out any second, waiting for a drop, but let's stun him first and see. Netted by a magnet, bouncing off of the door frame, and now Merc will just utility dump on down before dropping. looks like he might be completely out of his utility and not wanting to take a fall. Shaiko with a kill onto Achieved. Alem's taken out by Geo. Chala one as well. Magnet's still working to grab these throwables. Shaiko will fall off of his position. He and Bride will need to be the ones to work the bomb site. And Bride, a beautiful shot with the toxic canister tossed out as well. Merc is there, and with Geo at his side, it'll be Bride to stop it. And he gets both of them. He is so good, so clutch. And with that SMG-11, he can accomplish just about anything. A miscalculation by TSM to stack up together. And as they run into the bomb site, despite a spirited effort in the final 20 seconds, they fall short. And it's the round for BDS.
I'm curious if Bride even saw the second guy from TSM. It looked like one body, but it was in fact two. I will say though, when TSM had the execute come out, Merc was on that meeting hatch and he fake dropped, and it made BDS wonder, did he drop for real or was it a fake? And it actually worked out into TSM's favor. They got the openings, they got the kills, but then we all know what happens next. Bride, the absolute clutch god SMG legend. Almost no one can do it as good or better than he can, and that is going to keep BDS inside of this game. They basically elude TSM from getting the match point, which also would be series point for that matter.
It would be. And it would not necessarily spell doom and gloom for BDS, but would put them in a very tenuous position moving forward. Because BDS only have one more match to play. They've had all their games front-loaded, so their schedule is drawing to a close. That's unideal, because you can't really make up for lost time. That's just the way the scheduling works, and it's been an unfortunate set of circumstances for BDS. But the good news is that at least BDS kept it close. It came down to the final gunfight with one player left. TSM very easily could have pulled that off. They did not know where Bride was, which is why both players decided to go down the hallway and then try to run into the site side by side. The problem being, if they'd just gone for a default plant spot, there's nothing Bride could have done because there was a cabinet in his way, there was shelving in his way, there's a bomb chassis in his way, and Bride would have needed to swung. With even one player from TSM holding that doorway while the plant going down, Bride needs to engage in 2 1v1s, which is a significantly tougher thing to do.
Absolutely, and TSM, I mean, we can talk about their time efficiency, right? On the first attack, it was an absolute last second they started planting. On the round we just saw, they were running down that hole with what I believe was 8 seconds left, so had they managed their time a little bit better, you could argue that they could have taken their time, try to drone out or figure out where Bride was sitting, but because their time management isn't the greatest right now, they had to just run it down the hallway and pray for the best, and that's not enough against the likes of BDS. It is not enough against the likes of Bride because they will abuse that fact against you each and every single time, and once you give BDS too much space, that's where it gets kind of scary. Now, no Jaeger on the board again, it's just the magnets from Shaiko, so these shields are not protected that well, and TSM, they have so many flashbangs, they have so many grenades, these shields will fall.
Cabolo just waiting for the call to be made. X-Kairos go off. One of the Kona stations giving Shaiko a little bit extra HP. These Kona stations will be particularly crucial against the grenades that have been getting tossed in by TSM, because if you're even on the outer rim of where that grenade's going to blow up, that extra HP provided by Thunderbird's gadget could be enough to keep you alive.
Bolo.
You saw something very puzzling there, by the way.
No, I was. So the drone came towards Bolo. I thought it was like a Mossy drone or something because Rafal is playing the Mossy, but it wasn't. Anyway, the breach kind of got messed up a little bit from TSM here. It isn't walkable through. It's only going to be an angle. That is not going to bode well for TSM because they need a way in, but Achieved, he finds Renshi. He's now 2-7 down on the ground, but of course, his Goya shields will still help his teammates from the grave.
Shaiko is yet to get online. Final minute of play now, and there you go. A third kill for Shaiko. Half his HP gone in the process, but still a very worthwhile trade. And that's for Bolo as well, who's down for the count. Merc is the next one up to take a ton of damage. Playing inside of Attic, watching that hatch. Alems now wanders away. Because both Shaiko and Alems are below on HP, the Kona stations will be their best friend. 3 kills in a row for BDS, by the way, and that leaves Geo holding the bag, quite literally, inside a trophy, but it's just going to be a participation trophy, no victory. An all but certain round for BDS, as Geo now flashes himself and gets finished off by none other than Shaiko, who I believe finishes the round with 3 kills. BDS warming up, and again, proving that Oregon is a defender-sided map. They have done a much better job on this side than on attack, and BDS are 1 round away from tying it up with TSM.
I will say, the BDS we've seen the last 2 rounds in particular have looked really sharp. They're now hitting shots. They're really getting on the board, and that's exactly what we're used to seeing from them. So let's just call Bang the warm-up map, shall we? And now the real map begins. It's 5-4. We're in Oregon. BDS just recently got on the defensive side, and they've been looking really clean ever since. Tertiary bomb site of Meeting Hall Kitchen is where we'll go again. This will be the first time for BDS to defend it, but TSM, they tried it twice.
They won it both times on defense, or won it once on defense, by the way. Lost it the second time. That was the second flawless round from BDS to come out. BDS's 2 flawless victories on attack occurring on both dorms and Meeting. This time around, TSM, well, they're going to try to do their best impression of BDS and get a flawless round 2. This lineup from BDS is very strongly favored. This has been a very Goyo-heavy Oregon thus far. Ditto with Aruni and Mute. Those are very common operators. BDS also preferring the Wamai, with Shaiko once again getting those 3 kills in the previous round, finally getting online. But Jaeger has been shunned by this team.
Yeah, it's not something you typically see, but I mean, if it works, why change it, right? I guess the Magnus are doing their job because TSM, I said it, they had the flashbangs, they had the nades, but they did not clear the shield. They did not go down below, and most importantly, Geo kind of fumbled their breach in that master breach or master generator wall. That meant that they only had the doorways to walk through. That's not good enough, TSM.
The one big thing for BDS is that this is a very competitive group, so if they can at least push it to a 3rd map, then they will tie Dark Zero in terms of points and be a single point behind Elevate. That's just getting to the next map, not including a victory. So these are where the standards are going to be set. BDS will play for a full win, but at minimum, if they can conquer Oregon, they'll be in better place moving forward. 1 minute off of the clock now, as BDS, holding on to this Meeting bomb site, have done exactly what we see teams do all the time, which is play upstairs inside of dorms, hold control of attic. And while they're running very similar operators, it's a different setup than from what we saw when TSM went onto this bomb site.
Yeah, it is. But the difference this time around that Shaiko, he's not going to have to run in through a door and find 2 players, but Achieve finds one and Lems is off the board. That's unfortunate for BDS. They were looking so good, and now, well, they're down a player. They can still do it, but it's going to be a bit more difficult. Rafael doesn't have much help besides... Oh, I take that back. Renshi's right behind him. C4 might go over. They got a yellow ping, so they have some sort of idea what's going on, but TSM are now slowing down, trying to figure out what's the right approach here. Where exactly are the members of BDS? But there they are! There's 2 at once! That's too many!
And damage being done to Rafael. Merc doesn't want to do anything more than that. Waiting to see if the Nitro Cell will get tossed on out. It does. It does not connect, though, and Rafael will get stunned. So TSM has information that there's somebody there. Bolo cooking the nade. It gets tossed on up, but it seems like it went off a little bit too early. That's good news and a saving grace for BDS. Rafael still on the ground. Shaiko for insurance, but he gets picked apart by Merc. Merc's still in that position. He has not been removed. All the while, this contest that's occurring is on that top floor. TSM, once they get these kills, should they get these kills, will then need to drop to the main bomb site. Renshiro gets dropped. The Bolo blows up the shield. Rafal gets downed, and Renshi will walk away with just a sliver of HP. Bride heading back to the bomb site as well, as TSM find themselves with a 4v2 advantage.
Absolutely, 35 seconds left. Renshi on a sliver of health with Bride as his support, but that's not going to be enough, I don't think, unless they start finding some kills. There's absolutely no map control for BDS inside of Kitchen. They only have Meeting in control. Once TSM figures this out, they can start walking on in. BDS, what can you do? No C4s, almost no health. Has to juke the nade. He does so efficiently, but now Charla's planting, long range coming through. When Shio doesn't hit the shot, TSM in fact doesn't even give them a fight. But the last 2 kills from Chief and Bolo, they finish off the round. And that now means match point.
Series point, Nick. Or TSM, map point, match point, series point.
All the points.
All of the points, as they call it. God, every caster I hear, it's championship points, everything.
We got it all. I mean, some people even claim that they're world champions when they win the Pro League final. Isn't that ridiculous?
At them next time.
That's my bad. That's my bad. I shouldn't say that. My bad.
I'd like to remind you that if you are watching this broadcast, there are only there are only a select few amount of players in the world who can call themselves world champions.
True.
And the only way that you can call yourself a world champion in Rainbow Six Siege is if you have won the Six Invitational.
True.
Have you won something else? Cool. Have you won the Six Invitational? No? You're not a world champion. It's pretty, it's simple calculus is what it is. U plus SI win equals world champion. U plus any other win equals not world champion. I'm glad you followed along. I will be doing mathematics and equations for the remainder of the day. If you'd like to connect with me, feel free to do so on social media. I will be happy to tell you that you are also not a world champion.
Wow, that is a statement, Parker. And you know what? I feel like Merc himself is also putting out a statement. Not only is he now IGLing for TSM, that was one of those changes they made going into SI, as well as changing the roles between some of the players, namely putting Geo back on that hard support role. And so far, it's been working really great. Merc not only IGLing this round, but also kind of showing that significant operator of his that he's been showing at Invitationals, the Ying. It was a 6-pick. BDS doesn't know it's coming, but this time, Rafael, he brought out the Jaeger, and that is the perfect opportunity, the perfect time for this to happen. And even though it might have been a guess, I'll say, good job on you.
Laundry is the bomb site that BDS will go to and hopefully continue the trend line of staying alive.
Yeah, we're gonna be sitting around waiting. Of course, TSM can't just run straight through. They have to clear out the map, figure out where to go next, and BDS not moving too much themselves. They are very comfortable with their position because they have the Jaeger and the Wamai. They got barbed wire on the big towers there, so now it's all on TSM to make the first moves. But when you got the Ying on your side, you can be very happy with BDS playing passive because you got a really execution-based operator that'll break right through that round.
And execution was the name of the game for TSM. If you recall, it was TSM who hit the final hurdle before the finish line and face planted on the previous attempt to this bomb site. Bride picked up the two-piece, playing in closet when both of the remaining TSM players surged into the site with just a second left. And that is frankly just a bad stroke of luck. A misplay by TSM, but a bad stroke of luck on their part. And Bride is very thankful for the fact that TSM misplayed the situation. The rest of the round, though, for TSM was quite sound structure-wise. They were able to take map control on the top floor very quickly, open up the hatches quite quickly, and even though they engaged on the bottom floor and they lost Bolo early, they then picked off the remaining players, isolated Shaiko by a pillar, and grabbed the back part of the bomb site. The problem was that it took too much time, and that's why they rushed in and got gunned down by Bride. How is their clock management here? Well, it doesn't seem to be that much better, and history is repeating itself with Alems taking out Bolo, not in the same spot, mind you, but with Bolo down for the count, things will be significantly tougher. There's a Candela in the hand, 3 of them in fact, for Merc, charging it up, and he'll go for a drop, trying to bait it out, the sound going over and over and over again. 45 seconds for them to go. Shaiko swinging towards blue. Renshiro far enough back on pillar, but spotted on a drone. A grenade goes in, and there's the blind. And rushing in is Merc, but he can't hit the broadside of a barn. Renshiro can, though, and all of BDS can. It's Geo in a 1v5. So things go from bad to worse, and BDS will stave off match point for at least one round. Cool your heels, cool your jets, spend those 20 seconds talking to your team or not. Just peek the stairwell and get shot. Nicely done from Alems, and TSM will hit the big red button and take a timeout, with BDS now closing the gap, and it's 1 round away from overtime.
Yeah, somebody called in the emergency meeting, and honestly, that round in particular that we just saw in Basement Defense is peak BDS performance. When they got 5 players playing near each other, they are so effective at playing the trade, but they didn't even trade, they just got the kills. They won every single gunfight despite having to fight off the Ying Candelas at the same time. It was achieved, and Merc dropping Electric Hatch, they both got floored extremely quickly, and no matter where TSM were, BDS, they were there to match, and they just did it better. Now, we can talk about the situation. TSM, they called the board meeting, the timeout, whatever you want to call it, but that means BIOS and Team BDS can also talk as well. So as long as both teams use this time effectively, they will both go into next round very confidently, and they both really need this round. For TSM, it's match and map point, series point, whatever you want to call it, and for BDS, it's the way to go into OT and bring it back to possibly go into a third map, which would take us to Villa. Kind of a more neutral ground, as you would expect BDS to be in the driver's seat on Oregon, and you would expect TSM to win the bank, which they did. That was a 7-1 in favor of TSM. The first half looked quite dire. It was a 4-2 swap in favor of TSM. But BDS, they did get 2 flawless rounds on their attacks. Now they've gotten a 3rd on their defense. So despite the score being 6-5, 3 of those 5 rounds of BDS were flawless. That is quite incredible.
That really is a massive statistic to go back on, and really does go to show that BDS know this map quite well. I said that on the previous take from TSM, that might end up coming back to haunt them, by the way, that allowed BDS to get that 2-piece to finish off the round, that structure-wise, TSM looked like the better team that round, and I stand by that. Obviously, they did not learn from it. It was BDS who seemed to be the better student. And then on round number 11, takes the mistakes that they made, learn from them, and they flawlessly handle TSM. As you pointed out, their 3rd flawless round of this series, and the 3rd flawless round of this map. So, kudos to BDS for pulling that off. It's a dorms defense now for BDS upstairs, and the last time they went here, they were successful. The time before that, they were not. And that was the round where, in many ways, I would argue that BDS were the better team, trying to force TSM to get a plant down at the last second. Now, Geo did it, and the coverage, while the plant was going down, was strong. But still, it really comes down to a coin flip at 50 seconds, or 1 second rather, as to whether or not you're going to see Geo get that diffuser planted successfully. So while TSM wins rounds that they don't have a business in winning, BDS does the same thing. You now have a 1-round chance as BDS to propel these teams into overtime. And if it goes to OT, I have to say that the momentum will at that point be in BDS's hands, and they will have a better chance of pushing us to Villa than the other way around.
Wait.
Now, I don't know exactly where Rafal was getting shot.
grappled in.
Oh, okay. That is not the ideal start for BDS that they wanted. The timeout for TSM seemingly working in regards to the way that TSM take map control.
That's extremely odd. I don't think I heard the grapple in, nor did Rafal. But the thing is, it is a passive gadget. Rafal brought out the Jaeger ADSs combined with the magnets, so even though he died, it's a passive gadget. They've been put down on the ground, the value will still be had, but that means BDS now on match point has to play a 5 versus 4, and Merc getting a great entry for his team. Oh, and she follows up a Lem's off as well. Now, Shaiko, Bride, Renshi, where are you? You need to step up right then and right now, otherwise it's over.
This is something that you can't really prep for in terms of a timeout. You don't know the way that the defense is going to be playing, so you have to drone them out and pinch them. Both of the incursions so far coming inside of meeting and towards the back of the map by tower. This gives TSM so much breathing room and a ton of time as well. The first 90 seconds are just about done. So with half of the round still to go, BDS will sit there, and these 90 seconds are going to feel like an absolute eternity.
That they are. Shaiko trying to find the killer, and that's exactly what they need to be doing, because playing this 5 versus 3 isn't going to work, because TSM can just block the bomb site. They have so many more guns, so many more bodies. Renshi, Bride, Shaiko, the trio right here, they are so capable, and they gotta show us right now, backs against the wall, that they have what it takes. But a Chief says no, the net comes out, now leaving just 2 players left from BDS. Can they do it? Oh, another grenade! Bride, if there ever was a time to be here, it's now, but no, it's a flawless round for TSM as they end out the series. They take it 2-0. And honestly, yes, Rafal just came through. They haven't had much practice. They haven't played at Invitationals with him yet. They play with Bios. Bang was basically a warm-up. Unfortunately, it took too long to get back into it on Oregon, and we never got to see Villa. GTVP, we see Gotcha from TSM actually. He's there with the boys.
He is. He's tweeting about it earlier on. He's joined the team. We don't know in what official capacity. I don't believe it's been talked about by the org. But TSM spoils Rafal's homecoming. And this puts BDS in a very precarious position. In terms of their standings in their group, BDS are on the bottom. They were on the bottom coming into this matchup. They were looking to secure at minimum 1 point. They would need to go to Villa to do that. It didn't happen. No points secured for BDS, and they exit today in dead last in their group. Now, their next matchup is their last opportunity to put some points on the boards. If BDS are not able to do that, they will be the team going home from this group, which will break so many brackets of people who thought they knew what was going to happen. But that was why you don't do that. That's why I don't do that. Because trying to predict the Six Invitational is foolish. because just about anybody can win. That's it for Nick and I. We have the command center to break down that 2-0 victory for TSM. But of course, before we get there, a break. Don't touch that browser. We'll be right back.